Good morning. My name is Liu Keyu. Today, I'm going to talk about the management in practice based on the interview and the management concept we covered in week 4 and 5. So for introduction, during this presentation, I will critically analyze the management concept, discuss the advices for future leaders from manager, and also reflect on what I learned. First of all, background information. The manager's name is Leonard, and here is the information about his company. As you can see that he is an operation manager. Now let's discuss the behavioral leadership. Here is the interview clip.
So the second question is, how would you describe your leadership style? And can you give one recent example of how you lead your teams?
Um, I think basically for me is to train them to be very independent, that I do not need to monitor. The new person who just joined, within the first month, we will give them certain pointers of how to do. But once when everything is okay, I don't need to lead them. Any question they can ask me on WhatsApp or anything, because sometimes I'm not in the room. So, but we keep the channels open, but we let them learn to make their own mistakes, but they have to come back to us. So if they make any mistakes, we tell them and we make sure that they don't repeat the mistakes.
From the interview, we can see that his leadership style is mainly democratic style, plus a little bit of laissez-faire style, and also concern for task versus concern for people. Concern for task means that leader will focus more on monitoring workers, planning for the goals and urging completion from the workers. In the other word, the leader expects a result regardless of relationships. However, concern for people means that leader will guide and support workers patiently to build a good relationship and trust. Now, how did Leonard lead the employees in the company? In an interview, he said that he gives guidance and freedom and also trains them to be independent so that he doesn't need to monitor them day by day. This clearly shows that his leadership style is mainly democratic. He shares the power within the team. In the other word, he gives some autonomy to the team. However, he needs to firstly train and guide them to do the work. It shows that he is not that hands-off, but at the same time, he keeps the channel open for question. Therefore, his leadership style is mainly democratic, but not autocratic. Additionally, from my point of view, I think he focused more on people rather than tasks. Because in the interview, he said that he is okay with mistakes. Of course, tasks are essential, but Leonard teaches and guides the employees so that they will perform well on the productivity and results. Now it comes to decision-making process. Let's look at the interview clip.
Uh, so the big question is, when you have to make an important decision at work, what steps do you usually follow?
Most importantly, firstly, you gather the facts. You gather the facts, the whole situation, what is the issues that you face. If you can't make the decision yourself, then you ask your superior on their opinions and approach them. If you can handle it yourself and solve the issue, of course you don't need to. Most importantly, gather the facts. And then also you need a little bit of experience to handle it.
So how to make a decision as a manager? So let's analyze structure versus unstructured problem and program versus non-program decision. Generally, clear problems are supposed to be solved by past solutions, and the ambiguous problem will typically be explained by distinguished solutions. Additionally, systematic thinking versus intuitive thinking. How do you come up with the questions? Is it based on facts or logic, or more on experience and feelings? Moreover, the decision-making steps. So how did Leonard make decisions? In an interview, he emphasized that gathering the fact is most important in the decision-making process, mainly because facts are the base. Without facts, it's impossible to make decisions. He also said that if you can't handle the issue by yourself, you can approach superiors. If you can handle it, then solve it by yourself. This is aligning with the structure versus unstructured problem and program versus non-program decisions. The issue that workers cannot handle by themselves are generally unstructured problems. Approaching the superior is a non-programmed decision because the problem may be too unclear and sophisticated. Reversely, the issue that workers can handle by themselves and usually clear and simple problem, and it can be solved by past solutions. Additionally, in the interview, he said that you also need a little bit of experience regarding to the decision making. This means systematic thinking is not enough. You also need some intuitive thinking. In conclusion, Leonard usually follows the step of clarifying the issue, gathering the facts, and handling it or asking superior for help. Now I also ask the advice for future leaders from Leonard. Here is the interview clip.
Okay, so finally, what is one key piece of advice you would give to like the students who want to become a leader in the future?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you do not know the student, you don't need to assume that don't show up as though you're scared to ask questions or make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, ask questions. But after you ask the questions, make sure you remember the answers and move on. Yeah.
Okay.
Leonard's suggestions are very straightforward. Do not be afraid to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes, but make sure you don't make the repeated mistakes in the future. Finally, here comes to my reflection of what I learned from the lesson and this assessment. For me, I can say that it's essential that giving autonomy to employees so that they will have space to improve, and always gather and analyze the facts deeply before making decisions. Sometimes I rely on intuitive thinking, but from now I also need to think systematically. The very last, learn from mistakes so that I can do better in the future, which is a piece of advice from Leonard as well. Thank you for listening.